Welcome back to the Mega Mirror Live. We've got another awesome show for you tonight. On this edition of the Mega Mirror Live, we have with us a very popular new creator who's quickly making a name for himself in our community. An accomplished filmmaker and host of a popular horror film show on YouTube, he is best known as one of the 4 Beardsmen live stream. I am super excited to welcome J.L. Warren to the show. So if you are a fan of the Beardsmen or of horror films, then you've come to the right stream. Get your drinks ready, have a seat, and get ready for the finest display of facial hair you are likely to see on YouTube. When we come back. And we're back. For those of you just joining us, we have with us a great creator and one of the popular 4 Beardsmen, J.L. Warren. I'm very pleased to have him with us today, so let's bring him on. Hello, J.L. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, good morning. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. I've been looking forward to this all week.
Oh, I've been totally excited ever since you hit me up, and I'm just flattered that you guys would want to have me on. So thank you very much.
Absolutely, we've got to have all the Beardsmen on eventually. We've had the Demon on already, and now you. And next week we've got PhD Tony joining us, and all we have to do now is get a hold of Johnny O, get him on. So we're
definitely. Tony's going to be brilliant. I love that dude so much. We disagree on a couple of horror film points, but that guy is absolutely brilliant. He's taught me so much since I started following his channel, and so really great stuff there. He's going to be a lot of fun. Johnny, he's okay.
Yeah, he's all right. Anyways, before we get started, let's introduce my crew. First of all, we have the lovely Amy Hogan, who will be moderating the side chat, taking questions from the side chat, and all that good stuff. So, hello, Amy. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. And it's good to see you and JL and everybody. So thank you all for coming. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Awesome. Why don't you fill in the folks on how to post their questions?
Sure. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to tag the EiE Network, and I will make sure that they get read out on air.
Awesome. Thank you, Amy. And finally, we have, of course, the man in the machine, the guy who keeps us all running all day long and all night, Mr. Bullionator. How you doing, Bull?
I am doing good today. I really enjoy the 4 Beardsmen and J.L. Warren in particular. Not to say the other 3 aren't worth it, but I really enjoy J.L. So I'm looking forward to this a lot.
Absolutely. I am too. All right. Well, I guess we should just carry on and get started. So I normally have the same question I always ask my guests, and that is, what prompted you to start your own channel?
In a nutshell, I've spent many years, just like everybody else, watching YouTube channels, and the things that have always drawn me to YouTube were science and I would say talks about rationality and reason and logic in regards to theism. And one of the big things in my life is I've always noticed I've always had a problem with how religion and how organized religion affects everyday people, and through, whether it's through legislation or whether it's through impacting their lives in some way or attempting to impact their lives. And there was a particular video that I saw one time. Because I watch a lot of Matt Dillahunty and I watch a lot of the Atheist Experience and a bunch of other creators. And there was one particular video. I'm not going to throw his name out there, but I saw it and I was kind of like, I was watching. It was like, and there was I felt, in my opinion, that he missed a couple of points. I was like, and then that's what got me to ask the question: could I do this myself? There's so many out there, but I see that sometimes points are missed. It's like, so maybe I could do this. Maybe I could throw out videos where I kind of do the same thing. And that's kind of what started me on the journey. It was kind of going, I am going to do this. And when I already had my podcast going, so I was more familiar. I was getting very comfortable with my setup, my microphone and a camera. and being on camera because, I don't, but, I was like, you know what? I think I can. So I started hunting around and found some interesting ideas. And the first thing that kicked it off, I wanted to be funny because I wanted to make people think that I was funny. Was the JM Truth Superman vid? That was that before I went into heavier topics like going after religion. I wanted to see if I could actually do it and have fun. So the JM Superman video that I took down was my first attempt. That was just, I'm going to throw something out there funny and fun and just see if I can actually be successful. And the response to that was amazing. And that just kind of convinced me, I can do this and I can take on heavier topics and much darker topics, which is what led to the Aiden Rusfelt video. And then I have more in the works now.
Awesome. Looking forward to seeing those. So tell us a little something about your weekend horror.
Yes. It was an interesting. It was so weird how it came together, which is often how it does for a lot of people. I've been working at a job for a long time that gave me no creative outlet because I have over 20 years in acting and various things, on theater, on screen, and I've been doing it so long, and then all of a sudden I found myself in this job that paid extremely well, and the job allowed me to buy my house. Allowed me to buy my car, allowed me to, paid for my wedding. It, all kinds of, I got to vacation in places like Fort Myers and, stuff like that. And, Pacific Beach. But I had no creative outlet whatsoever. And so 6.5 years had gone by and I hadn't done anything. And I was just hurting. I needed to do something because it was just sapping me. And I needed an outlet. So when I left that job and when I quit that job in disgust, I realized I had some time to, I was very, very lucky and I had a very nice severance package. And I was able to sit down and not work and focus solely on doing creative things. The first thing I did was I wrote my horror novella. So I finished that. I was like, I'm going to finish my first book. So I finished that. And then once that was done, I needed something new because I'd lit the fire. And so I'd worked on a couple of 48-hour film festivals. And on one that I worked with my co-host, Eugene, my now co-host, Eugene, who was a cinematographer and director of photography. And we just hit it off. And so we was like, boom, we're good and we're ready to go. And so that was such a fantastic experience. And that little short we put out actually won some awards, which is really cool. I had this idea. I was like, what? And it was kind of inspired. It was two things that went into it. So Kevin Smith, who's one of my favorite directors, hosts his Smodcast, where he literally sits around, smokes a shit ton of weed, and talks about comic books and pop culture. And that's great. And that's fantastic. He talks about just things that come across. And I was like, okay, well, if Kevin Smith could sit around with his buddies and talk comic books, and movies, why can't I? I've been, what's stopping me from doing that? And then my friend John gave me a swift kick in the pants and just said, do it. You've got the mic, you've got the camera, you know what you're talking about, just start doing it. And so it kind of like goes like, you know what, I am going to do it. You know what I'm going to talk about? I'm going to talk about horror films. So then came the search for my co-hosts, and Eugene jumped on it immediately. He was like, hell yes, I'm looking for something new. It's something new for him too. So let's do this. And then I found my friend Alex, who was a coworker of mine at that previous terrible job, and he was looking for something too, because at this point he'd left that company and he was doing like handyman stuff. He was like, yeah, let's do it. This should be a lot of fun. So I was like, okay, let's do this. So we put the three of us together and we tried to come up with a format, and our first 2 episodes were abject failures. They were totally terrible. Which is why they're archived. They would probably never be released. They were so bad. But we finally found a groove and we started dropping it. And long story short, that we just had our season finale, our 52nd episode, our 1-year season finale, just this past Wednesday. And
awesome.
That was a I'm still kind of decompressing from it. It was really intense. And it was very much like producing a live studio broadcast with all the things going on behind the scenes. And I did not realize that until, I was in the thick of it. And we eventually, we had some problems there at the start, but our fan base has been so incredibly and welcoming and supportive that they hung through there, and we actually wound up having a really excellent live stream. And I got to give some props to Johnny O from the Plot Hole for jumping in and saving us on that. He actually came in and just out of the kindness of his heart, and saved our technical side of the podcast and made it of that live show and made it excellent. Now we're in season 2, so
Excellent.
and we pretty much talk about horror films from the filmmaker's perspective. We talk about them. We didn't want to do reviews. We just talk about them, things that people might not know, like little behind the scenes things, or what was the directors, the writers, the actors, and things that went through it. You watch movies as a director, it's a bit different, and you can because you can see you've seen how the sausage is made, so we know the little things that go into these. They go into this process, and then we wanted to just share that with our audience, and it's been an amazing ride so far.
Awesome. It's like the nuts and bolts of it all.
Oh yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually a good point. How'd you hook up with the plot hole?
Oh, that was neat. So as I was getting into it, I had the podcast going, and I think we were about to do episode 9. And I was also a fan of Team Skeptic. And Flat Earth and numerous other I would say poke and fun or point and laugh creators. And one day Team was like, "Hey, I'm going out to the Flat Earth International Conference. That's the one that I went to. It was up here in Frisco. And hey, I need some help. If anyone wants to come out and help." And I was like, "Oh, he may need help with like equipment or moving stuff or whatever." So I'm a pretty big dude. I can lift heavy things, and Team is kind of small. So I figured I could give him a hand. And I was like, "Hey, dude, I literally live like 20 minutes from where you're going. So if you need some help, just let me know." I was like, "Sure." So I went out there, and that is where I officially met Team Skeptic and MC Toon. And Team is so freaking cool, and we met, and he just kind of like opened the arms of the debunking community to me, and through that relationship with Team, that is how I got introduced to Johnny O, because Team appeared on Johnny's channel a short while later, and then he mentioned to Johnny my love of horror movies, and then I got talking with Johnny O. Through through his Discord, and then we wound up chatting ourselves, and then boom, he had me on the show to kind of talk about Week in Horror and to do a top 10 horror films list with him, and we kind of battled off our top 10s, like what each of our top 10 favorites, and that's where it took, and it's just been the lazy river ever since, just absolutely flowing excellently between, because I think we're very much of the same mind, and we have so many things in common, and he knows so much that he has taught me from a technical standpoint. So he's not only been a fantastic friend, he's been a resource that it just an overflowing resource for me and my show and the things that I do.
Awesome. Yeah, I could tell that your friendship with Johnny O goes back a ways. It's very apparent the way you guys interact. He's a cool guy. I like Johnny.
He opened up. I've even had dinner over at the guy's house, and he and his wife are amazing cooks. But his family is amazing. He's a fantastic family guy. There's a dude who's got his finger on it. He knows what's important. He knows where his focus is. He knows what to do and what to get done, and he still loves everything that life has thrown at him. I mean, he's an inspiration. He really is. And, I wish I don't have kids myself, but if I did, I would definitely want to be a dad like him. So
awesome. Well, before we go to the first video, let's check in with Amy and see if there's any questions from the side chat.
Yes, there actually was one. Little Wolf AK82 asks, JL, is your novella available to get online?
Not yet. Hopefully soon. It is currently, currently I would say by definition, I'm in my 3rd or 4th rewrite, and I'm making tiny little changes to make sure everything is copacetic, everything flows correctly in it. I've had numerous kind of beta readers, if you would. Johnny's read it, Prime Red has helped me out with it, and several others that have sat down and taken the time to actually read through it. It's a Lovecraftian horror short or novella. It's a collection of 9 short stories that all center around the same little seaside beach town, and hopefully eventually, soon. I really do. I know very little about publishing, about self-publishing, or even finding a publisher. I have no idea. This literally was an idea that I was like, you know what, I'm gonna write something. I'm gonna write a horror novella. Or I actually wasn't even a horror novella. I just wanted to fucking write something, and I needed something. So I sat down and I just busted it out. And what it turned into became the Beach Street Chronicles, which is the title of my novella. It just kind of turned into that organically, but it really came together. And I was like, boom, this is it. I was like, there it is. And maybe one day it'll be out and everybody could read it. I have no idea. Maybe Netflix will buy it and want to make a series out of it, which would be pretty sick. But I'd probably just jinx myself.
Let's hope you're that lucky. That would be so cool, man. I'd be watching for sure. Absolutely. I'd have anything.
Cool.
I'd be so freaked out.
And then Tusk actually just came up with a question too. He said, if J.L. Warren could remake any horror movie, what would it be? Also, what's a great movie that's been missed apart from Our Point?
Let's see. If I could remake any horror film ever made, it would be The Ninth Gate. And the reason I bring up The Ninth Gate, even though some people may say it's more of a thriller, but it was a horror film because it dealt with, summoning the devil and stuff like that. And the reason was because 99.9% of that movie was absolutely amazing. I would change that fucking ending. Oh my God. I have never, and I've spoken about this at length. That ending made me so angry that I almost threw something at my television. I was so mad. And that's the one I would change. Of all the films, of the freaking thousands of movies I have watched, that's the one I would legitimately, bar none, I would go back, I would change that ending because that was a total waste of time. That it was like 2.5, I've said constantly, it's like 2.5 hours of just the greatest masturbation session you could ever have with no climax whatsoever.
Oh, man.
It just stops. And it was like, you've got to be kidding me. I was so angry. But I would change that. And I would say for a little known film that people may have missed, there is because I'm a huge Lovecraft fan, as you can tell. HP is over my shoulder, constantly judging me for not writing. I would say the number one film that gets that I would there's so many. I'm gonna actually throw it out there. The Lovecraftian horror Black Mountainside deserves way more credit than it's actually gotten. That is an amazing indie film with a very, very small budget that did way more than it was the best expression of stretching your dollar as best you can. And what they accomplished in that movie as far as Lovecraftian horror was phenomenal. And I think you can still find it on Amazon Prime. I had to do some serious digging to actually find it, but definitely check out Black Mountainside. Is a fantastic little movie that I don't think enough people know about.
Cool. There you go, folks. Check it out. Check it out for sure. Okay, let's go on to our first video. We've kind of edited down the videos we're going to be watching tonight, as we usually do. I highly recommend that you go over to JL's channel and check out the full-length video. But just to give you a taste of the great work that he puts out, our first video tonight is going to be his takedown of J.M. Truth's Superman movie. Roll it, Bull.
Hey, everyone. JL from the Week in Horror podcast here. Now, normally, I'm hard at work on the next episode of The Week in Horror. Or I'm debating theists and other woo believers on other people's channels. But I've never really taken the time to make my own YouTube content, so welcome to my first video. But when I heard about J.M. Truth's fan film, I had to take a closer look. And I do mean a seriously closer look. Because if you're watching this, J.M., I actually am a filmmaker, and I have been for some time. And given your claims of mastery, I had to see if your work actually reflects that. So now, we're going to take a look at JM's Superman Vengeance, or what I like to call, how not to make a movie. First, we can obviously see that JM was working with an extremely minimal budget. Now, normally, that would be okay. Not everybody has the disposable income to just shoot movies left and right. But lack of financing is no excuse for a lack of planning. Meticulous planning and bringing in talented individuals who can bring many things to your table can solve many of the problems that you run into when shooting on a no or shoestring budget? Here we go. I can understand altering the key of the Superman theme here, to make it your own, but it just doesn't work, which is why no one does it. I am not even going to comment on the fact that a self-professed flat earther has made use of a spherical earth. Don't worry, JM. I won't tell anyone you sold out your beliefs for your audience. That font is not industry standard. And is government misspelled? A little issue here. The Superman chevron is not directly centered on the screen, which means that the opening crawl cannot sweep over the chevron with any degree of symmetry. Amateur mistake. Just for fun, I inputted the entire opening crawl into Grammarly, and it came back with like 5 mistakes. Always proofread, JM. 5 seconds in and we already have issues, the most egregious of which are sound, lighting, and camera. Of these 3, sound will be the first to break your production. The ambient wind and traffic, combined with the crunching of the gravel underneath the actor's feet, will all distract from the focus of the scene, which is the agents. As the audience, this is the first time I'm seeing these characters. I have to be able to discern things about them and how they could possibly play into the story. A rookie mistake is to automatically think that ambient sound can reinforce realism, but this simply isn't always the case. Lav mics or a boomed unidirectional mic with appropriate angling would have solved the problem here. Secondly, lighting. We can see that the mid-ground agent is completely overblown. His shirt actually blends into his skin. Before shooting, it's extremely important to identify any hotspots or zebras when you see them, and immediately diffuse them or re-angle the camera so as to avoid them completely. Third is the camera itself. When shooting handheld, it's very important, unless you're shooting found footage, to keep the camera as still as possible, especially during establishing scenes. Unnecessary movement will disengage the audience, as that movement will make them aware of the camera and shatter the fourth wall. And lastly, I don't know what the hell that thing is behind the car. Is it a mailbox? Whatever it is, it's distracting. Shouldn't have been there.
Mr. Kent, I'm Agent Henshaw. This is Agent Craig.
Federal agents introducing themselves without their badges? Seems odd.
Those are definitely in your future, Mr. Kent, if you refuse this offer.
Exile? I'm already in exile.
Wow, that got dark. And I am not talking about the plot. Once again, the importance of planning out your shots in your chosen locations. You don't have light stands? A $20 500-watt work light from Home Depot will solve that problem. Don't have any diffusers? Layers of wax paper will easily make a great diffuser. Don't have any reflectors? The shiny side of tinfoil will solve that problem. You have to think on your feet, JM.
True. But who knew you would live this long? Alone? On the farm?
Farm? The Kents were produce and dairy farmers. Where's the corn, the wheat, the sorghum? Where are the fucking cows?
And you think?
Some really strange actor choices here with nuance and line delivery. I would have reshot these to get some better options.
But that's just me.
Ugh, Batman is better than this. Okay, so Bruce snuck in with the cane, but then he left without the cane? Was he ever really there? Was Clark just talking to himself? Well, I assume that JM was playing on the Batman trope of his vanish routine. There are a lot of things missed here. For example, suddenly the couch is lit better. Where was that lighting when Bruce was sitting on it? And now all of a sudden Clark is leaving and the editing is just terrible. Not to mention, Clark has super hearing, and he has literally no reaction to Batman's vanish routine, something he hasn't seen in years? Wouldn't that be something he'd reflect on? Is something he probably missed about Bruce? Lots of questions and assumptions here, which is something you do not want your audience to have with characters as established as these.
I pass judgment on Kal-El.
Oh, what the fuck is that thing?
You will no longer be allowed to use your superpowers on American soil. This includes, but is not limited to, your speed, strength, flight, and any other power that is deemed super by this order. In short, the no tights, no flights rule is in effect.
Okay, the dialogue here is atrocious and atrociously delivered. And I'm not sure any government official would want the words no tights, no flights on the official court record. What the actual fuck? Come on, JM. I know that you were low on budget, but you're shooting a Superman fan film, which means a good portion of what you can spend should go to costume. A plastic Superman chevron hot glued to a Lycra bodysuit? Surely you could do better than that. Or maybe you can't. And where exactly is Clark in this scene? Suddenly he went from the farmhouse to this blank room with only red and blue light. Illogical scene movement is so painful. Once again, planning.
You don't get paid.
You know, that community center you're shooting in gets a pretty good echo. Or your sound department is shit. I'm going with the latter. Word to the wise, ambient buzz should be removed in post. There's no E in Luthor, dumbass. There's that font again. And be sure there's no typos in your credits. And you really don't need to overinflate your credits to make them seem larger than they are. Many of these could have been bundled up into one. But blatant dishonesty is kind of your gig, isn't it, JM? Ah, the one thing you got right. Folly. Folly is right, JM. Hey, it's that globe that JM doesn't believe in. Well, JM, it looks like you still have a lot to learn about filmmaking, which is strange because you've said multiple times that you're a master videographer and a filmmaker. Now, I know sometimes we can overinflate our abilities, especially when on set, but seriously, after watching Superman Vengeance, I understand now why you've had 3 production companies instead of one that lasted. And that's going to wrap up this look at Joshua Gennari's Superman Vengeance, or JM Truth's How Not to Make a Movie. I'm JL from Week in Horror. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out my first vid, and I hope you can forgive the technical issues as I'm still kind of figuring it out. Now, I don't know if I'll be making content regularly, as my responsibilities at Week in Horror keep me pretty busy, but if I see something really interesting, I may take a swing at it. I'd like to give a special thank you to every single member of the debunking community who have welcomed me with open arms and opened the door for me to try my hand at this. You guys are fucking awesome. All the love. We'll see you next time.
That was awesome. That was really, really great. I loved watching that whole full-length video. Guys, you got to get over to this man's channel and check it out. It is hilarious. I never knew Superman had a gut like that.
Yeah, I feel it was so crazy because I actually had to watch that thing. I watched that fan film. Like, I think I accounted for the most views on that fan film of anybody because I had to watch it like 15, 16 times. And even going back, there was still a couple of things I missed. Like there was because it turns out JM was shooting it on a Sony Minicam and recording his sound directly to the actual tape. And there's a moment when he's doing the kind of like the Bruckheimer swoop around, when the 2 agents and him are talking together, and you can hear him breathing. like in the camera, and like he was out of breath, which is a common thing that it actually pops up in all of his productions when he's trying to do, because he doesn't have appropriate dollying. And so instead of trying to dolly a production or try to steady cam something, he's like trying to move very quickly and keep the camera stable, and it just doesn't work out. And you can hear him just like, "Oh, I'm out of breath," in the which is like, what the hell? And I actually caught that after I caught that after I'd actually watched the whole thing. So it's littered with so many bad things. But the inspiration behind that video was actually Prime Red, because Prime Red. I think one of his earliest films, I think his first film was a takedown of that video. Only his didn't go as in depth as mine. He actually went after the acting and kind of JM himself. And I actually was like, you know what? That's a good idea. I can do a takedown from the filmmaker's perspective as a director watching this and say, no, this is wrong. This is wrong. And I also wanted to combine it. Not just a point and laugh, but I wanted to combine it with education. So anybody else out there who's been hesitant on shooting their own production or shooting their own fan film could take some advice from my experiences. Be like, oh, this is how we can solve those problems. So
yeah, that's I think what I like the most about this video. A lot of the problems that he had, you basically explain how to solve it with $20 and access to a Target store.
Yeah. You would be shocked how many times productions that I've worked on have taken, it's like we're right in the middle of something and then we hit a snag and then someone's got the production credit card and is hauling ass to the nearest Home Depot to try and just and try to solve it. You'd be shocked how much your local hardware store can save a production as long as you know what you're doing and what you've planned for, and which is something JM does not do in any of his stuff. Given the scope of what he's trying to do, there should be multiple production meetings. I know that in the short film that I worked with Eugene on, and I'm going to jump another one. I was first AD on a short film that Eugene produced, which is going to be hitting hopefully festivals this later on this year. But we had, I would say, 2 weeks of production meetings before we even went to go look at the location. So everybody was on board and everybody was on the same page. And I had notes. I had reams of notes about what I was doing as the first AD. And I can't even, it's even more so for the director. And so, but you've got to have a vision, a really solidified vision before you go in. He obviously just picked up a camera and said, I'm going to start shooting, and then called myself a master. Sorry, man. Having possession of a camera and having friends that will jump in front of that camera and dance around for you does not make you fucking Kubrick.
Absolutely. Amy, does the side chat have some questions about this video?
Actually, they do. There are a couple here.
Wow.
Tusk says, Tusk says J.L. Warren missed the most heinous thing about this movie. Superman is double denimed. It wasn't billed as a horror, so how could he let this pass without comment?
Yes, it should have been. It should have been a horror film. You are correct. I should have marketed it as that JM Superman horror film.
There you go. And then the Mighty Quinn asks, have you seen any Star Trek fan films?
I have seen a few. I really dug. Oh God, there was one, and I can't remember the title of it because I only watched it one time. I found it when I was going through. I think I came across there was a Star Trek Starfleet Academy game that actually starred John Delancey. And it was awesome because John Delancey as Q, and he ran that whole thing. And, he got to appear as a Borg and do all kinds of Q stuff in it, which was really cool. And that led me to watching a couple of other things. And while some of them are not great, I love the fact that the number one thing that they always put the focus on is making sure that this looks like a Star Trek film. Like this is Star Trek. So there are certain things, the costuming wise, the set design, everything about it. They try to sell Star Trek on it, and of course, writing it as Gene, inspired by Gene Roddenberry's work. So any Star Trek fan film I have seen is light years beyond this one because they actually have a love, like a real deep love and passion for that IP, that franchise. next to Star Wars. Sometimes it's either one or the other, but that's when you see the love that goes into it. And if you don't love what what you're going to be shooting, it's going to come out like shit every time, because you've got to have that emotional investment to really come across.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how about yourself, Amy? Do you have anything you'd like to say?
No, that was an awesome takedown. I mean, that was incredible. Your knowledge is just amazing. I think that's awesome.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Yes,
sure.
all that that is my degree. That's my degree right there at work. That's what it's all culminated in, was taking down JM's stupid fan film.
It's awesome. I'm sure Bull has a couple of comments. Bull?
Damn this mute button today. Damn this mute button today. When I first saw that movie that JM Truth made, I was just like, what is this? I had a friend who actually went to Full Sail for animation, etc., like the actual purpose for going to Full Sail University here in Florida. And he could do better than that. Like, it's not the school. It's none of the stuff that it's just JM Truth. That's all. That's the problem right there. That's all I got to say about it. But your takedown was awesome of it.
Oh, thank you. I think the biggest issue in that is obviously, I think JM is actually a little bit older than I am. And the thing that gets in JM's way is JM. He believes he's right. And he believes that whatever he does is correct, regardless of any input from outside of him. And that's always going to be of all the people on a production, the director has to be the most humble. He does have a vision. He is trying to execute that vision. And while there are some minds out there that would, there are exceptions to the rule. Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, Stanley Kubrick. Obviously, these were people you could not tell them that they were wrong, but those are few and far between. Of the millions of directors that are out there, you could probably name like 5 or 6 that have that level of talent. So, realistically, the director has to be the most humble, because he's got to take input from his actors. He's got to take input from his crew, from his set design, from his sound people, from everybody. And oftentimes, the producers come along and say, hey, and while we all hate that, we've got to be able to listen to people and take input and assimilate that. Star Trek reference. And assimilate that into the vision. And if they can't do that, if it's their way or the highway, if you're not Kubrick, it's gonna fall on its face every single time. And I've worked on productions that I've seen the cast and the crew just mutiny against the director because they wanted to be Kubrick and they were, on the JM side of the spectrum.
Yeah. And with all this film talk, leads me to an interesting question I wanted to ask you, and that is, what is it about horror films that makes you like them so much? What attracts you to them?
So before I went into theater, and film, my education was in forensic and abnormal psychology. And when I was buying my own way, I was paying my own way for my education, and I ran into a kind of a roadblock in that to really be able to have a career in that field. You had to graduate from a really solid 4-year university, and here in Texas that was UT Austin, because they have one of the best psychology departments in the nation. And I could not afford to do that. So I ran into a deal where I had a choice. I could either take out $250,000 in loans to try and finish my master's and continue on from there and try to get a career, and then have all this debt hanging over my head. And most likely the field that I wanted to be in, which was criminal profiling, probably working in law enforcement in some respect, I wouldn't be able to just jump in. That's not a position you could just jump into. And because I was fresh and brand new, I'd either have to wait for someone to die who's already in that position and jump into that slot, or come up with some amazing breakthrough that just shatters expectations, and all of a sudden I open my own door. The odds of that are extraordinarily slim. So chances are I would be opening up my own little practice, and I would be couching people in therapy for $200 an hour until I could finally get there. And that does not appeal to me. The money might be great, but it would just be absolutely just draining. I literally don't have the patience for that. So I was like, I went back to school and I just followed my second love, which was film and theater. And the reason I fell into horror films, and I respect them and I love them so much, is because humans, as I think as a whole, we can say universally, must have catharsis for their stress, for their anxiety. Something has to come out. And the one thing that horror has always done, more so than I think any other genre, because you can always slip yourself into the character's position. You can feel things and engage in emotional discussions by watching any kind of movie. Is like Green Mile really draws you in. That's why one of my favorite films. Green Mile draws you in. The role of the guard, the role of John Coffey, and the kind of the environment of that time. And those dramatic ones, they serve a grand purpose of allowing you to feel things you normally wouldn't feel. But horror has always been there as a release, kind of like a pressure valve for the anxieties and the fears of society. That the things that we are terrified, whether it be in the 60s when it was, when it was the Cold War going on, or McCarthyism going on, or whatever, or any kind of wars, Vietnam War, and like that, you have social anxieties in any country, and horror films are the pressure valve on that cookpot that allow you to kind of like breathe through it, because you can experience your anxiety. It's up there on screen or it's on your television screen. You can you feel the anxiety and then you feel the release once the credits start rolling. And it's like, so as a societal whole, we need that valve. And because horror is so nebulous and can change, and so many things you can be afraid of so many different things, it can literally be applied to any given social anxiety. That no matter what, whether it's personal, whether there's personal anxiety, you can't leave, you're afraid to leave your home, or you have phobias that are socially destructive, or if it's something going on with the government, or something going on with school, or something going on with your job, any of these things can be approached by the horror genre. And I think it's unspoken how necessary the genre has become as both a pressure a valve for the anxiety of society, but also a kind of, I would say, the canary in the coal mine, that these are the things that we can see coming. These are things we should be aware of, and it helps to promote awareness for these things. It does so much more that I don't think a lot of people talk about, but that's why I love the genre so much.
Yeah. So I guess for you, it's really a therapeutic experience. Yes.
Some horror films there have been extremely therapeutic, where and it's across any genre. I don't have a particular genre, although I'm my number one favorite. I love sci-fi horror. The Thing is my number one favorite film. But that dealt with themes like with being afraid, because that came out about the time that the AIDS pandemic the AIDS epidemic was really kicking off. I think at the time they were still calling it GRID. And that was a huge thing, because all of a sudden AIDS was on the back of everybody's mind. Who has AIDS? We can't tell. Like, then this movie comes about an alien that hides inside people's bodies. And it's saying, I'm your friend, you know who I am, but in actuality, I'm a monster. And that was a reflection of that societal dread, that you don't know who is dangerous. And that's why I kind of love that. I do have a passion for 80s slasher films, and that trope, because I think that's a 80s slashers were an indictment of the puritanical values that our society is based upon. Final girl, the virtue of the final girl, and doing bad things will invariably get you killed. And of course, it's treatment of race. We'd laugh about the token black guy nowadays, but back then it was a thing. Like minorities didn't survive because they were impure in that respect, and that was all reflected in 80s slasher films. And I love that. Looking back, and say, man, we've come a long way.
Yeah. Seeing as you have such an extensive background in filmmaking, excuse me, can you quickly take us through the process of you go through when you create your videos for YouTube?
For me, when I was I can take you through when I was creating the JM one. It was all about knowing the source. So I had to sit down and I had to watch that thing numerous times in a row, over and over and over again, and making notes on every single thing that I found. And then I don't know everything. I'm not a super genius when it comes to this. So I got together with my co-host, with Eugene, And I got together with some other filmmakers that I know in the industry and sat down and just asked questions to make sure that I was on point. It was like, is this correct? Am I right in going after this? Am I right in this? And I confirm all of my data to just make sure that I'm not throwing out, bullshit jam nonsense. And once I've got everything down, I write my script, and then I film it all in one take, including my bloopers and stuff, and then cut those out, and then just intersplice it at the time codes that I've selected in the other project. That was for doing JM. For the other stuff, it's all about, I would say research first, is know your stuff. Like when I was doing the Aiden Rusfeld video, I had to sit through some really horrific crap that man has done and that man has said. But you got to know, you know your subject. You've got to know your subject. So I went through, and it involves a lot of research, and then writing your script out, and then just recording it and cutting it up, and making sure you hit your points without droning on like I'm doing right now.
Well, I think that's a good opportunity for us to move on to the next video, which is, of course, taking down Aiden Rusfeld's hate church. So, Boole, can you roll that for us?
Hey everyone, JL Warren here, or JL Truth, or JM Warren, whatever you want to call me. Welcome to my second video. Last time, I promised that if I found something interesting, I'd try and take a swing at it. And thanks to the generous nature of the internet, another dose of asinine bullshit has landed in my lap. Now, anyone who knows me knows that my biggest gripe with religion comes from the societal divide that it creates, and all the problems that stem from that divide. Because of this, I will do whatever I can to shine a light on the narrow-minded and bigoted ideologies that do nothing but stymie the intellectual and scientific growth of our modern civilization. So, I'm going to take some time away from watching and researching all manner of horror films to talk about something truly scary. Hate churches. More specifically, the Key of David Christian Center. Now, I became aware of the Key of David Christian Center when I came across a Facebook post of one of their protests. After seeing that, I realized two things. One, these Key of David fuckers aren't even original enough to have their own hate message, because two, they stole it from the Westboro Baptist Church. You know, those splinter sect fundamentalist assholes who protested the funerals of soldiers, claiming their deaths were a result of God's wrath against gay people?
Oh, yeah, I heard of that.
Fortunately, Westboro saw a massive decline after the death of their tyrannical founder, fundamentalist homophobe Fred Phelps in 2014, and the excommunication of his grandchildren after they subsequently left the church. And for a while, the mission of societal division diminished. The monstrous hate mongers slipped back into their holes, and we had some fucking peace. But something happened in 2016. Something kinda orange. Running on messages that fomented hate and intolerance towards racial minorities and the LGBTQ community, Trump's religious conservative base suddenly found it acceptable again to openly express their hatred of those that they decreed were in violation of the tenets of their faith. Yes, the President of the United States riled up the hate-mongering religitards and gave them every excuse to rush from the closets deep in their ignorance holes and back into the world to inflame anyone that they could hatefully thrust their self-projection at. And that brings us right to the Key of David Christian Center, a group of fundamentalist assholes who popped up like weeds in a manure-strewn Arkansas cow pasture, and founded by the king shit thistle himself, Aiden Rusfeld. The Key of David is based somewhere in Philadelphia. Its actual physical location is kept secret due to consistent death threats. These rancorous assholes are known for their harsh attacks on Muslims, the LGBTQ community, witches, Mormons, loose women, and the Catholic Church, and pretty much any faith or philosophical system other than their own. Oh, and they only follow the King James Version of the Bible, openly condemning to hell any Christians who lived before its publishing in 1611, and they decry any form of Calvinism or any liberally minded theistic positions. Typically, KOD members protest at campuses in Philadelphia, launching their hate speech at passing students, targeting individuals they think look like sinners. Ugh. Ankle biter is not a gay term, you idiots. It's slang for a small child. Or Team Skeptic. And strangely enough, the KOD is not a 501c3 organization, claiming that the church is not beholden to any Caesar or government and is owned by God. While it's nice to know that these hate mongers do not enjoy any reverse federal subsidizing, it does bring the actual state of their financials into question. And speaking of questionable financials, that brings us back to Pastor Aiden Roosevelt. You know, this piece of shit. Originally from California, Aiden has apparently led an interesting life. Before he got his certification from the Abundant Life Christian Center outside Houston, Texas, he was deep in the financial game as an advisor, and he even claims he was a semi-professional snowboarder. Unfortunately, I could not for the life of me find a picture of this anywhere. While he was an advisor, though, he also claimed to be an investment guru, telling his clients that he could plant money trees you could just pull $100 bills off of. So, after he burned his bridges here in Texas, fraudster Aiden then moved to Philadelphia and founded the Key of David Christian Center, its strange name taken from Revelation 3:7. Yes, this greedy and arrogant piece of shit actually considers himself the angel of the church in Philadelphia, and that he himself holds the Key of David. Since founding the church, he and his congregation have been spotted at numerous campuses and the local pride parades where they have been accused of disorderly conduct, ethnic intimidation, harassment, and assault. And recently, he and his family had to leave their 4,100 square foot home after the IRS put an $800,000 lien on the property. So, in closing, Pastor Aiden is more than just a hate-flinging douchebag. He's cut from the same cloth as assholes like Kent Hovind and other seed doctrine preachers, greedy, disingenuous frauds who capitalize on the hateful, ignorant rhetoric stirred up in society in the wake of Trump's election in 2016. And while he does talk a mean game, the vast amount of people who hear him reject his and his congregants' message, some even counter-protesting, to great effect. Okay, now while I will always support the right to peacefully assemble, I will never condone violence on behalf of either side. Devolving into a violent response only puts the power into the hands of your opponent, and often removes you from the debate. So of course, Aiden's group would resort to violence. For the time being, Aiden foams his message of ignorant intolerance to a tiny group of illiterate fucktards from a location he keeps secret due to the consistent death threats, all while running from his debtors and the IRS for his constant fraudulent financial dealings. I'd also like to give a big shout out to content creator The Philly Captain, who is making it his personal mission to get Aiden extradited back to face charges in Arizona.
Fuck back! You're gonna ruin these kids' fucking Christmas, well guess what? I'm not gonna fucking let you!
Hopefully, given the major changes we've seen lately with support for the LGBT community, and the growing tide against corruption and inequality, we'll see the Key of David, like Westboro before it, diminish back from whence it came. The obscure fringes of theism that no educated or rational human being ever really took seriously. I'm JL, thanks so much for checking out this vid, and I really hope you enjoyed it. If you're a fan of horror films, be sure to check out my podcast, Week in Horror. Also, my good friend Prime Red has an incredibly secret project just around the corner, and it looks to be awesome. You should definitely choose to check it out when it drops. Links to everything in the description. Stay safe out there, and I will see you next time.
That was an excellent video. Really, really powerful. I enjoyed watching that. And it's obvious how passionate you are about that particular subject and why you chose that to actually get into YouTube to begin with. Did you get any negative feedback from that video?
So shockingly, no. I was anticipating something coming back, at least because Aiden Rusvelt is a very, very vocal individual, and he has gone after people who have criticized him or criticized the Key of David before. But I maybe they didn't see it, or maybe he just didn't care. But yeah, I didn't get anything. It's been nothing but super, super supportive stuff regarding that, and I think. From what I saw, everybody is pretty much in the. I think everybody, at least I know, is in alignment that hate speech, or I would say hate-focused church groups, are just the bane of any of existence, and even people who are religious, because they're a splinter sect of the Baptist Church, but nobody agrees with their message, and everybody thinks that they're crap, and So yeah, it's been really, really supportive feedback that I got on that, and it was really, really refreshing to see how many people were like, "Yes, we agree with you," whether they're believers or not. They really, really agreed with it. So it was really cool. I was hoping for a little bit of hate, coming back, like because I'm a huge supporter of the LGBTQ community, and I was hoping that some asshole would be like, "Oh, fuck you, man," blah 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 blah. I'm gonna run my mouth in your comments, but none of that happened. I was kind of surprised.
Yeah, it is kind of surprising because you'd think that the people who want to take you down would be all over it,
True. Yeah. I was especially expecting it, having called him out by name and not just his organization, but he actually called out. And I went into and I used my Google Foo, and I went in and I found his, I got everything about his background. And well, I know that there were some clips there. There was some stuff that didn't make it into the actual final video. But I know it was difficult to see, but that there was an image in there of like the white car. There was the white police car. Actually, it was a campus security car, is what it was, and everybody was gathered around it. But that whole thing was shot via chopper that was out there looking at that, and Aiden was being detained. Because one of his followers had punched a counter protester in the face, because there was no real barricades in between them and the counter protesters, so everybody was mingling together. And there was something going on, and there's actual video of one of his protesters turns around and punches a dude in the face behind him. And just knocks somebody straight down, and then that erupted into a brawl. And then the cops came in with campus security, started pulling people apart, and then there was footage of Aiden being led away to another cop car. But so yeah, it was that. When I saw that, I was like, I've got to go after these people, because these are not only because these are really, because at least Westboro, they kind of fence themselves off and they don't really engage, and they typically tend to stay far away because they don't want to get violent. At least I can give them that. But these people will get violent with counter protesters. They will get physical. They will threaten and go to that extreme. So that was a pretty bad one. I was hoping he would say something, or at least pop off. But I guess I hit too close to home. I don't know.
Well, it better he shuts up, because nobody needs to hear his crap for sure. But I think in this whole general religion kind of topic, I think what's equally as bad as these hate churches are the television ministries. For example, Kevin Copeland's. Those guys are dangerous with what they do.
It's I have a real issue with the seed doctrine and the roots of that, as well as with hate churches. I haven't done anything on Kenneth Copeland or Joel Osteen because their rhetoric gets me so worked up. I think what killed me, I think what really got to me was John Oliver did a story about these seed doctrine guys, Creflo Dollar and Joel Osteen and Kenneth Copeland. And the story of a woman's daughter. This woman's daughter was recounting the story. Her mother had cancer. And instead of, when she was diagnosed, I think she had stage 2. And I can't remember which cancer it was. But anyway, she had cancer. It was stage 2. And instead of taking her money and putting it towards her treatment to get better. She dumped thousands of dollars into Kenneth Copeland's, or it was either Copeland or Austin, but dumped thousands of dollars into their coffers instead of going to her treatment, and she died.
Oh,
and her daughter didn't really figure it out until after her mother had passed. So when her daughter realized, oh, I lost my mother because this preacher on television that she was a big fan of said, give me your money for, to plant these seeds that you will reap later on in heaven, blew my mind. And these guys, they're so predatory, and they're all con men. I know that Kenneth Copeland was recently removed as kind of like I think that program was removed from the network that he was on because of his COVID-19 comments, the whole like wind of God crap. That looked so bad that they actually pulled him and replaced him with somebody else who was another absolute con man and just business-oriented individual, designed to bring in money. But I wish people could see this for what it is. More people could see it for what it is, and really start to shut this crap down, because it gets me so riled up. I know that people are allowed to believe what they want to believe. I have no problem with that whatsoever. But when that belief begins to take lives, when people die because of it, when people sacrifice their families or their health, or it really aggravates me. I can feel myself getting riled up just talking about it. It sickens me. And more people need to be taking hard swings at these predatory individuals looking only to buy another private jet on the backs of their devoted followings.
I agree. There's got to be a stronger effort made to shut them down for good.
That's part of what I go after was because is the separation of church and state is a big focus of mine, and I wish I could do more activism with that, and hopefully one day I will be able to do that. If this really takes off, and I can, my channel really, if it kind of blows up, and maybe I can start doing some more serious activism and really putting some people on the spot. I'd love to be able to do that and really bring it to the forefront of a lot of conversation, because the reversed federal subsidies that these organizations enjoy in order to further fleece their flocks, that's got to stop. It's got to stop now, and hopefully we can get it to the point where it won't be a thing anymore, slowly but surely.
Yeah, absolutely. So there you go, folks. Get over to JL's channel and give him a sub, give him a like, show him some love and support, and spread it around to all your friends and family. Let's see if we can get his channel through the roof so he can get on to his mission. Amy, do we have any comments or questions from the chat?
We do. We have some good ones. The Mighty Quinn, back when we were covering the fan movie, said Star Trek continues in Phase 2, and Samuel Cockings from Trek Yard's Power 361 films, he said that was a fantastic movie. And if you want a film, Starship Horizon was another good one, he said. Microraptor says, I wonder if horror films taps into the same kind of our mentality as when, for example, gamers torture their Sims.
Good comment.
Thank you. Yeah. And then Microraptor also says horror movies can be turned off. Hate churches are harder to quote unquote turn off.
Yeah, absolutely. It's hard to shut them down. I want to applaud the efforts of some groups out there. There's I love this one group who is absolutely amazing. They're a group of bikers, and at first glance they are some hardcore pipe hitting guys, but these guys are amazing because one of the things that really hurt Westboro is that these guys, this chapter of bikers, God, I can't remember their name. Someone out there is going to find them, but they would go to funerals where Westboro was going to protest, and they would create a wall where they put their backs to them and create a wall in between them and the funeral procession, and just stand there. And these are huge guys, so they would literally just by size alone would just drown out their rhetoric and allow the people at the funeral to mourn in peace and to bury their dead. And it's the efforts of individuals like that when they take the time out of their day to go and just stand against it whether it's in silence, or to put their backs to it, is amazing. We need more of that.
I agree 100%. What do you think about this, Amy?
What's that?
What do you think about this?
I think this is wonderful, and I agree. I mean, they're so brave to be able to do that, because you never know who will, flip out and get angry about something like that. And I love your work. You do a great job. I mean, you're amazing on your channels, the way you take things down. I just love that. It's a unique perspective, and I could see that your psychological training, your training in psychology really helped in some of your thought processes and everything. I think that's awesome. I've been interested in something like that. Back to school and behavioral stuff. I think that'd be fun.
Cool. And what about you, Bull? Do you have anything you'd like to add?
I think he's muted again.
And of course, that damn mute button. No, I agree with the whole. We need to take, like, this stuff needs to be addressed. As far as I'm concerned, your freedom of religion right stops when it infringes on somebody else's rights, just like every other constitutionally amended right does. You cannot expect your religious right to overwrite everything. And one of the problems I have currently is these religious hospitals refusing certain types of treatment or certain treatment to certain individuals based upon that religious right, and that's very disturbing and dangerous.
Oh yeah, it's a direct violation of the Hippocratic Oath, and this isn't baking a cake for somebody's wedding. This is Health and Human Services, and these individuals, for something as blatant as that, it's been my position that individuals or I would say that doctors or medical practitioners who do that should have their licenses stripped. They can't operate anyway. They can't function, as a medical practitioner anymore, because there's no words to convey how disgusting that is. But the reason these people do this is because of fear and ignorance. It's fear of what comes next, fear after what happens after we die, ignorant of the objective reality that they live in and that they share with other people, with other very diverse individuals. It's abhorrent, and I just I hope to be a voice in that kind of den, the den against it. Just kind of pointing out wherever I can. It's the least I can try to do. I myself, I have my own story when I coming out as bisexual, and there are people who have had harder times than I have, but sometimes they can't speak up, or they're in a position where they can't have a voice, and I hope that I can do that in some very, very, very small way, is kind of be a voice for that, because I know a lot of these assholes are intimidated by the beard, so maybe that gets me some leeway. I don't know.
Well, a lot of small voices add up to a big screen, and it's very, very sorely needed right now.
Damn right.
Absolutely. Okay, well, let's kind of shift gears a little bit, and let's talk a little bit about your time with the Four Beardsmen. How did that all come about?
The Four Beardsmen of the Apocalypse. Just kind of, I think the four of us just kind of fell into the same kind of chat group, and we decided that the four of us come from such wildly different backgrounds and different experiences. We do hold the same position on few things, but we are definitely not an echo chamber. We disagree on a lot of different things, but we really, really like the fact, all four of us like the fact that we can disagree on things, and we can hash those out and then move on from there without it, being a wall in between us with that. And I think the kind of mutual design there was like, we could do this. We could bring up these topics. We could have fun. We could laugh about it. And we could demonstrate to our audience that, yes, we can have legit, straight up disagreements on things and we can they don't have to divide us as friends, that we don't have to break away from that, and that all of us have a little bit to bring to the table. Tony has his expertise in natural sciences, and Irish has his expertise from his law enforcement background and the work that he's done with the court systems and things he's seen firsthand. Johnny's got his background. I've got mine as well, and we can all bring a little bit to the table. And sometimes they don't, mesh. We have different political leanings. We have different views on how to deal with religions like this. But that was the big point, is that we can have these discussions. We can disagree on things. We can agree on some things. And then at the end, we're still having fun. We're still friends, and no one's going to flip the table and walk away. We wanted to demonstrate that could exist. And I can't remember exactly whose idea it was. It might have been Johnny's idea. Or it may have just been us chatting, and it just kind of formed into it. And I think the 4 Beardsmen of the Apocalypse was kind of like, this is what we should be, like the Beardsmen. And then because sometimes we talk about really heavy stuff, capital punishment, or the persecution of certain races, like what's going on with the Uyghurs in China. We talk about really, really heavy things, and so we figured, the 4 Beardsmen of the Apocalypse would be very tongue in cheek. And we just kind of carried on from there. And we just kind of bounce around from channel to channel in between Johnny O, and between the Plot Hole, Irish Demon, PhD Tony, and mine.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I also like the fact that you all try to kill each other with Reaper squeezins.
That was Johnny's thing. And I think it came from some sort of bet that he had with Irish Demon. And I guess it became... I think it got bigger than it was intended. I've tried it myself. Now, I live here in Texas. A little known fact about me, I'll just throw this out there. Most people don't know. I actually don't have a sense of smell. I was born without one. The test to have that tested, back in 1984 when I was tested like that, really, 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 really sucks. It's horrible. They cram a 2-inch or like a 3-inch Q-tip up your nose to test your olfactory capability, and I have no sense of smell. My sense of taste is very, very muted. So I eat a lot of spicy foods because it's really all I can taste. So I'm big on really, really hot, spicy stuff. And so the Reaper Squeezes was not that hardcore, but apparently it killed Irish Demon. That was a hilarious video.
It was funny as hell.
Anyways, well, let's have a look at some highlights from a recent episode of the 4 Beardsmen. I believe this was aired on September 13th. So, Bull, can you load that up?
I am JL, and welcome to another edition of the 4 Beardsmen of the Apocalypse. With me, as always, Johnny O from the Plot Hole, Irish Demon, and PhD long swinging D Tony. So, and I wanted to talk about something interesting, or something kind of interesting, because I just got, right before we went live, I just got done listening to the latest Cheeto conference, and where a reporter for ABC just asked this cat point blank, why did he lie to the American people? Since since the videos about Bob Woodward's book have come out, I'm so going to buy that when it comes out.
Yeah, me too.
Because Bob Woodward, if there's any journalist out there that deserves respect, it's Woodward and Bernstein. But when I loved it because he's out there, he's doing this whole thing, like that. And
how's it go again?
I could just make the noises and it sounds like him. And this ABC reporter asked him point fucking blank, why did you lie to the American people? And if you've ever seen a person look weaker trying to hedge their shit, and then immediately try to swing the blame over to China. Like, straight up, this is China's fault, it's the China virus, blah, blah, blah. It was fucking disgusting. And I've never seen, I don't know if I've seen a human being try to hedge, and maybe JM Truth has tried to hedge his shit as much as President Trump does. Oh,
so I think Jessica G's going to give you an extra point.
Skeptic Dank, I'm going to steal that. He thinks he's Churchill, but he's actually the Mango Mussolini.
So John Rapp said something earlier, and by the way, there you are. Said something earlier in the chat. His question was rewarding a flirt for being wrong. I think I'd rather. Let me get back to the exact quote here. Where'd it go? Where's John Rapp? There he is. Rewarding a flirt for being wrong doesn't sit right with me. I'd rather be willing to reward them for honesty or good character, or even just listening with their ears, not their mouth. I don't think anybody here is talking about rewarding somebody for being wrong. More so, rewarding for somebody for having or for making the effort to engage in the conversation. Now, I'm not so sure that would apply to flat earthers who aren't able, like we've got Rachie in the chat. She has been probably the most, I will say that she is the most intelligent flat earther that I've seen, simply because she will analyze evidence and accept other people's point of view and look at what they have to bring to the table that could alter what she believes or what she ultimately thinks.
I got into a conversation with Anthony Riley where I was trying to explain how unsupported objects experience a downward acceleration, and he said, "Well, not a helium balloon." And I said, "Well, they still experience a downward acceleration. They've just got other forces acting on them, right, that make it go up." And he's gone, "Well, that downward acceleration, is that Einsteinian or Newtonian?" I've just gone, "Well, it doesn't matter. We're just going to treat it as a constant acceleration for the moment." And it's just, they don't let you build up your knowledge base in layers. They don't let themselves build up their knowledge base in layers. They want it all as one solid lump, and that's not how knowledge works.
Yeah.
You can't just have a physicist come over and vomit their physics knowledge into your mouth the way a parent bird does. That's not how knowledge works. You guys deadpanned that with impressive alacrity. That was meant to be funny, so.
Jessica G, Neil deGrasse Tyson is not a fallacy.
So I've got this cup, my tea drinking cup. Here is the receptacle for the tea.
Wait.
And this metal piece sits inside the outer coating, right?
Okay.
As I was drinking my tea, I kept spilling it upon my shirt, and I couldn't figure out why, right? It turns out that there is a void between the outer plastic and the inner metal, which when I washed it is now full of dishwasher water, which I have been drinking and running down my shirt this whole time. Because it was empty, and I turned it to the side, and a lot of liquid came out of the side, and I can taste the soap in my mouth.
All right, so somebody's going to be shitting himself soon.
Oh yeah, Boris is a very highly educated individual. He knows what he's doing, and he's doing it well in terms of it's having the desired reaction. But yeah, some of the things he said. If you go back over some of the things Boris Johnson has said, over the past, say, 15 years in public office, for example, are frankly shocking. I mean, referring to, and I'm paraphrasing and quoting, so it's obviously not my view. He referred to Asian people as Orientals and things like, just all of these little jabs, and it's like he does it in this kind of, I'm just having a laugh kind of a way, and everybody laughs, and it's like, no big deal. But it's like, no, I mean, this guy is intelligent enough to know that you shouldn't speak like that. You know what I'm saying?
I think there was a video of him when something was going on. I don't really pay attention to British politics, but there was something going on where reporters were camped outside his house, and they were hoping to get an image of him to ask questions. And here he comes dawdling out in what looks like half relaxing wear, half evening wear, with a tray of tea and biscuits, and just comes himself. Not any service like that comes out and address reporters. I'm not here to answer any questions. I'm just here to give you tea. Would you like some tea? Here's some tea. It's very good. And then slowly the reporter's like, "Well, we have questions." They're like, no questions. Would you like some tea? It's very cold out here. Would you like some tea? And they eventually all just fell into it. It's like, sure, yeah, great. And they're all having tea together. Not a question answered.
Hello, Jeff.
I think he's muted.
Jeff, are you muted now?
Oh, hey, how you doing, guys? Yeah, no, I was kind of taking care of something quick. Sorry. Yeah, great show. Great show. I love the Four Beardsmen. And like you said before, sometimes you do get into some really heavy stuff. Sometimes it's lighthearted, and you could see the really vast differences between the four personalities, but there always seems to be some synergy there. Can you expand a little bit more about what it's like to do the Beardsmen?
Yeah. Wow. Well, what can I throw out there? So, typically through the week, we'll come across things that really interest us and throw them out to the group with our perspectives, just to get everybody's kind of take on certain things, and that generally leads organically to other topics and other conversations. We sometimes, I think we've done pretty good as far as having a solid topic that we want to talk about. Like, we talked one week about capital punishment and the failures of a capital punishment system, and our views on how we think it should change, or whether we should abolish it or not. Our bullying episode was pretty big. Just because people talk about you shouldn't bully, it's a thing, but we want to be able to broach these big topics and really bring them to light, because as far as the debunking community goes, which we kind of consider ourselves a part of, there's not a lot of the focus is either on natural sciences or on theism or debunking woo believers. But we wanted to have kind of, instead of a debate channel, because Agree to Disagree does so well on that. I know MDD used to do decent on that, but they've kind of gone to shit. And I'll claim that out. I'll take full credit for that one. I'm not a fan of MDD anymore. But there really wasn't a channel where people could get together and just and talk about these things. So maybe we're like the bearded version of The View. I'm not sure, but it's been a lot of fun bringing these topics up and getting people engaged on these things, because we get a lot of really cool engagement from our audience. And I think that's kind of what it grew into. It was very organic, the way it developed. So, and we're really happy with where it's going.
Yeah, it seems to really be very fluid when you're on the air. It's just goes from topic to topic, and I think that's what I like the most about the show. Let's see what the side chat has to say. Amy, is there any questions?
There was a good comment. Let me show you. Microraptor said they may disagree with the politics in a lot of ways, but they agree on the important aspects of respect and quality and equality, and that's talking about the Four Beardsmen.
Mm-hmm.
And
I agree.
Awesome.
What do you think of it?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Go ahead, JL.
Oh, sorry. I was just telling you that's the one thing that I really enjoy about working with Johnny and Irish and PhD Tony is the recognition that our positions are subjectively based, that based upon our own personal experiences, our own personal interpretations. We try to eliminate as much bias as possible in going into these things, but we are allowed to have our positions, and as long as our justifications are sound, based upon what we've experienced, then we allow that respect to the other individuals, especially given where we live, because Johnny and I are both here in the States. Irish and PhD Tony are down in Australia, and where there are similarities in our politics, there are obviously grand differences in them as well, and we respect each other for that, and we allow each other to have these positions, and we just try to inform the other without trying to win or trying to one up the other guy, and that I think works to help us flow the way we do.
Mm-hmm. It shows. It's a very, very well done show. Boole, what do you think of the Beardsmen? Have you watched it?
Yeah, I have watched a few of them, and I find it very entertaining. I do like the fact that you do have varying perspectives. It's quite it's very refreshing. It's very reminiscent of what we tried to do with the Non Sequitur shows, get some people on that had different perspectives and talk. So
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have that respect, and to have that between the four of you and any guests you come on. So,
I think ultimately it was a response to a lot of the things we've seen. And I'm not to denigrate or downplay anybody's work, but a lot of things, I would say, debates or discussions we've seen have devolved into, you're an idiot or you're stupid or whatever. And while objectively we could say these things, either they're insults or they're ad homs, but we try to keep that openness and that level of respect there, because we don't want to devolve into Tony may believe some things that are vastly different than what I do and have justification for those. I'm not gonna say, well, you live in Australia, so your viewpoint on our politics is bullshit, which is wrong, which is absolutely wrong. It doesn't matter where he lives; he can have a view on the effect our president has on other places, and it is valid because it is his viewpoint, and his viewpoint is valid. Validating, we all seek validation, but we all need to make sure we want to make sure that people realize, especially our audience, that it is very important to validate the other individual and to let them know that they are entitled to what they believe, or they're entitled to the interpretation of their subjective experiences. Just remain open, be open to further information. Start at one place, but don't be so closed off or so blind that you can't take the info from another individual, because you never know. They may just have insider knowledge that you don't have. And it's the combination of respect and humility that we really wanted to showcase on that. And really, it helps us get to the bottom of things, like, why do flat earthers so badly need the earth to be flat? Which is a question I don't think gets asked very often. It's more, you don't understand the science, you're an idiot. Which is funny. We can laugh at that. But why not get to those? Like, why do you need it to be flat? What does it fulfill within you? Why jump on this and just completely shut out this thing? That's where the really important questions are. And I think that's where we try to go with that.
Yeah, and you do it well. Thank you. And I'd like to ask a question that's a little off topic, but and I know you're probably dying to share your opinion. But what are your thoughts of the impending election of the president of your country?
We talked about this at length on the Four Beardsmen and kind of our positions. Now, I know some of the individuals think that just because of the way our fucked up system is, that Trump is going to take it again. I had a little fear. Now, I personally, just to blanket out there, I think Biden is going to win this one. And the reason I believe this is for two reasons. Actually, it's three reasons now. One, Trump is going to make an absolute ass out of himself and embarrass the GOP in the debates against Biden. The man is not a solid public speaker. He cannot stay on point. And Biden is going to orchestrate his debates to showcase this. The point is not, I'm right, you're wrong. The point is, I'm capable, you are incapable. That's going to be the focus of this. So that's one thing I think he's got a leg up on Trump on. Two, Trump does not have Florida, and no Republican has ever won re-election. No Republican president has ever won re-election without holding Florida. That has been a constant for the last 96 years. Trump does not hold Florida because there's a lot of elderly, heavily invested people who have their 401ks or their pensions in the stock market, and the stock market is tanked because of his COVID-19 response. And because of that, these people, they don't care who is president. They just want their money. So the money, which money fucking talks in America, that's going to be a big hit against him. And then third, actually I should say there's four. The third one is the Bob Woodward book, which has showcased that, flat out, there's no questions about it, Trump lied to the American people. He knew one thing, he said something else. He can play it off as much as he wants. Oh, I try to downplay it to be, to maintain an air of confidence. No, I upplay. He keeps switching back and forth. The media is calling him out on his bullshit. Why did you lie to the American people? I think it's coming full force. Now people are going to hold his feet to the fire. And as this rolls on towards November, this is going to be huge, a huge steamroll against him. And I think the fourth one I actually say is Kamala Harris. Well, a lot of people don't like Kamala because of her past. I love her because she was a federal prosecutor before she went to the Senate. And she comes at it as a law enforcement professional I saw her Senate hearings where she was just grilling people like they were BK Whoppers, man. It was insane. All these old, crusty old white guys like, well, what do you think of this, blah, blah. And she's up there just, I was like, this is not a hearing. This is an interrogation. And I want to see her bring that, if the White House is able to find some law that allows Mike Pence to be on the same stage as a woman, I want to see that debate go down. I want to see Kamala take on Mike Pence and really shut him down. Because whether to shut down a 1950s bigot who is in love with his own mother than a radical black woman with the experiences that she's. So yeah, I do say that yes, I could be wrong. Trump could take this election. I really, really hope not. But I think the dominoes are falling against him at this point.
I think a lot of people probably agree with you. How about you, Amy? Who do you think will be your next president?
I'm hoping it's not Trump. And I like Kamala Harris too. I just think she's awesome. She's a breath of fresh air, and she can really hold I really like her a lot. So I would love to see them go in. I'm a little concerned because they seem to be playing for the Electoral College, Trump and Pence. So I think I'm hoping that I'm pleasantly surprised come November.
Good.
And and that's what I'm hoping for. I don't want to see Trump win. There's a good chance he could, because following presidential elections, usually the incumbent is reelected. There have been a couple that just in my lifetime that I've seen that have not, like where the incumbent didn't win, but usually they do. So I'm hoping not, but there's always hope. I've never been a Trump fan because he makes just the things he says and the misinformation he spreads out, and how he just feels like it's okay to make fun of people who are different from him. And
the list of things you could say that the man has done, I don't even want to call him a man, the man-child that he is, and the absolute inadequacy of this individual and I honestly take it. I've never had I didn't get political. I didn't really get political until I realized that this is what was happening. I realized I needed to do something. I needed to get out there and really express. I needed to vote regularly. I needed to be on top of things. And it's sad. It's sad that it took someone like Trump to really motivate my ass. But hopefully, it has motivated a lot of people now that we are 4 years in. The stock market is at one of its lowest points. 200,000 Americans dead from his COVID-19 lack of response. He's calling out the media as the enemy of the people, denigrating the trans movement, denigrating the LGBTQ, the entire LGBTQ movement, and the blatant lies that he has spoken, and mischaracterizations of people, attacking our allies, disparaging our biggest supporters, Canada and the UK and Germany and France and Australia, and then cozying up to North Korea and Putin, and then basically I can't tell what the hell is going on between him and Xi Jinping, between him and Winnie the Pooh, because I honestly have no idea what that relationship is, because it's a love-hate thing. It's so moonlighting, But I'm sick and tired of just the chaos of all the things in this country. There should not be any chaos. Is the freaking White House? Sure, there can be chaos in Congress. At least, because whoever controls whatever side, there's always going to be chaos. People disagree, whatever. There should be no chaos in the goddamn White House. And I'm so sick and tired of his representation of this country, because, well, Trump does not represent me, but he does represent America, and I am in America. So, and that's the way other countries see it. If he wins another 4 years, I will be very interested and very kind of fearful of seeing the world's response to that, because we may just be fine. We may just find some very serious doors shut on us because people just don't want to deal with this anymore.
Yeah, yeah. And Boole, what is your take on it?
I was gonna continue where that leaves off. Like he said, he was gonna get Mexico to build that wall. I didn't think he meant to keep us the fuck out of Mexico. Just saying, like, yeah, not to keep the Mexicans out of here, but to keep us from going into Mexico. That's why they're gonna build it, because of the COVID issue. But I honestly think that Biden has a pretty decent chance. I hate to speculate on it, but if for one reason black people are pissed off, and when black people are pissed off and go vote, Democrats tend to win. So that's usually
which is why we're seeing the knee-jerk response of Trump attacking the United States Postal Service, which I think one of the best demonstrations of that was some celebrity sent a letter, sent a letter to himself. So he mailed a letter, and it took 20 days to get back to his house. And that is because of the things that Trump has done to the United States Postal Service in trying to gut it. Because we know that we're, with the COVID-19 pandemic, mail-in voting is going to be a thing. Right. And he's trying to attack that as best he can, because he doesn't want people voting from their houses because the gerrymandering is not going to work this time. We're trying to shut down polling centers is not going to work because people weren't going to assemble anyway. So let them vote by mail. And his attack of that is just disgusting. We see, and what gets me is, what I don't understand is why so many people out there. Oh, pardon me. That's going to lose me a point. Thank you, Jessica G. So many people don't see how blatant it is.
And it is obvious. It's so obvious thing.
It's as subtle as a brick through a plate glass window. What he's trying to do to basically change the landscape in his favor, and there is a vocal minority of psychopaths behind him who don't care. But the vast majority, the silent majority, needs to really stand up and start pushing back. And while I don't advocate violence, I will never advocate violence. The racial protests that are going on right now are they're an example of this. They are it goes to these deeper rooted issues. When there's chaos up at the top, there's going to be chaos down below. And hopefully Biden will be. And that's what sucks, is that if he does get elected, which I'm really thinking he will be, but if Biden gets elected, he's going to spend the next 4 years repairing everything this man has done to our country. That's 4 years of progressive possibility wasted in trying to just re-level the playing field, to fix the damage done to our relationships with our allies, to reassert ourselves against North Korea, against Russia, and against the war crime, or I would say the human rights crimes that are going on in China, to really try to do that. And that's just 4 years down the toilet trying to do that. But hopefully, we need to start somewhere, and hopefully it will be this November.
Yeah, myself not being an American, I'm actually a Canadian. The new president will have an effect on Canadian politics as well. There's no getting around that. Our two countries are very closely entwined in that way. But I will say this: I think it's high time that a woman takes office. I think it's time.
I do. I would agree. I fear that if it happens, whoever that individual is will get the same. I think that we'll get a similar responses to what Obama got when Obama took office, when the Republican Party literally stonewalled him on virtually everything that they could. They just shut him down. They were going to approve nothing. They were going to, and I fear, and that'll be really atrocious, because they were doing it. I mean, obviously, they're doing it because a lot of them are racist, and they hated that a black man was in office. What will really suck is when it comes out, when they start attacking us, is why is the female president making decisions? Is she on the rag? And that shit will happen. That shit will happen. That sexist bullshit will take place. How will we respond to that?
Yeah.
Well, and I think to combat that before it even happens is we need to run her on her merits. not on the fact that she's a woman. The fact she's a woman needs to be secondary to her policies. And I think that was kind of the mistake they made with Obama. Now, Obama was a good president, and he was a very able president and a very able politician. But there's people like he won. A lot of people think because he appealed to the black vote. And the same thing, and they tried that with Hillary, and Hillary couldn't do it because even though technically she did by popular vote win, like there's a lot of people that said, "Oh, well, she's got too much baggage" or whatever. But it needs to be a strong candidate from the get-go to get a woman in office.
Yeah. I do agree with you, Bull. I think that if a woman does get in, it should be on her merits and not her sex. However. Or her gender, rather, excuse me. However, when you look at it from the other side, she is probably not going to get in because of her gender. Yeah,
and that's the truly sad part.
Yeah. Marriage should be there that get her in, but her gender is what keeps her out. You know,
it's very similar to any atheist. Anybody who is an open atheist will never be president, at least not in my lifetime.
Exactly,
because one nation under God, that whole thing, the falling back on that ignorant sentiment. But if we could get an atheist in office, that would be amazing.
That would.
Yeah,
I agree. I agree 100% because there are so many eminently more qualified atheists out there to hold office, but they never will because of the power of the church over the state at this time. It's just a sad fact. But anyways, JL, this has been an absolutely fantastic show. I have really, really enjoyed talking with you and getting to know you and getting to know your channel. I'm sure everyone in the chat agrees. This has been a fantastic evening, afternoon for you. I'd like to kind of close things up now with a list of 10 quick-fire questions to get to know a little bit more about who J.L. Warren really is. Just some fire questions to find out some likes and dislikes and so on. So, are you ready?
Fire away.
Awesome. Okay, here's the first one. John Carpenter or Alfred Hitchcock?
Alfred Hitchcock.
I thought you would say that. I really would. Birds?
Pretty much the body of his work, but I actually would go Psycho because it altered the very landscape of Hollywood post-code.
Awesome. All right, next one. The Exorcist or Carrie?
Exorcist.
Yeah, me too. Absolutely. Thrillers, slashers, or paranormal?
Oh, slashers, definitely.
Okay. Jason or Freddy?
Jason.
You see a bit of a pattern developing here, do you? Okay, next. Sigourney Weaver or Jamie Lee Curtis?
Oh, fuck. Sigourney Weaver.
Okay, awesome. The Alien trilogy, one of my faves. Rock, blues, or country?
Oh, rock. Absolutely
awesome.
Rock.
Awesome. Beer, wine, or whiskey?
Wine, actually. I'm actually a big red drinker. I prefer full-bodied Merlots.
Excellent. All right, and these next two, living or dead, a person you would most like to meet if you could?
Dead and Aristotle. Because there are some questions about the Aristotle that I would love the source of that material, the logos, the pathos, and but anyway, there's things about that I would love to hear from the source to try and help break that stuff down, because all we have is interpretations now, and while those are very good, I'd love to hear it from the man.
Absolutely. And yep.
Oh, so many people. Well, I don't know. I mean, there's so many people I would love to meet. It's hard to so who I would not want to meet. I would never want to meet Donald Trump.
Okay, that sounds fair.
I have a legit hatred for the man, and even more so than like doctrine preachers or whatever like this, because at least they're con men and they're obvious. He's so oh my god, I would straight, it would get me shot by the Secret Service, but I would just straight punch him in the face. I really would.
Yeah, and I'm sure there are many people out there who would be the same.
Yeah.
And last one, the top 3 things on your bucket list.
Backpack Alaska.
Oh wow, cool.
Because it's the in my mind it's the final, it's one of the last frontiers on this earth, and so I would love to backpack Alaska. I want to see Ireland, and kind of get in touch with my roots, my father's side, and just kind of explore Ireland. So Ireland, backpack Alaska, and as far as my bucket list goes, what would be a third one? Oh yes. I can say I would like to also backpack. So I'm a big outdoors guy, but I would love to backpack the Dream line in Australia.
Awesome. Those sounds like really interesting things, man. Well, let's take a last look at the side chat and see if Amy has anything else for us, and then we'll wrap it up. Amy?
And nothing right now, but I noticed that almost everybody in the chat has agreed with what we've said about the last conversation.
Where is your cheese?
Oh, geez. Matthew's here.
That's Matthew.
You don't have to wrap it up yet.
And then, and yes, that's an awesome bucket list. So. Yeah, Matthew's now in session, I think. Yes, and Little Wolf AK82 said loves hearing their state. And Jessica G is really has a score for you. She says that the steaming 22 Dale Warren 0 for influencing people to punching.
Okay, this whole scoring me is, I highly question the bias behind this whole scoring system, because I can't score a point to save my damn life. I couldn't spend a weekend on Fort Hood and stuff like that. So with the actual military, so I got to do a lot of cool things that a lot of kids don't get to do. And that was one of the things I've done, and I love that territory. The country out there is absolutely astonishingly breathtaking. But I have gotten a chance to do that, so yeah, that was an amazing situation. The only place better for America, I'd say, is the Cimarroncito up in northern New Mexico, where they have the Cimarron Boy Scout camp called Philmont, and I've actually gotten to do that twice, and I got to hike Baldy and Mount Phillips and Mount Black. And all of those peaks over 11,000 feet. Baldy's 12,144 last I checked, and that was a major experience for me. So a lot of fun, but yeah, very cool stuff. I love going outdoors, backpacking, and seeing, being a part of nature, and not for I wouldn't say for the spiritual connection, but for getting my hands on the earth, and going off of my training and my skills, just being a part of it. I love getting back to that. That's something that people should do more often.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Being a mountain boy myself, coming from Calgary, I know exactly what you mean when you say breathtakingly beautiful. It's country every person should take a chance to see.
Colorado's the same way, man. Colorado Springs. I grew up. I've been up Pikes Peak several times. Mount Albert, which is the highest in the state, and then several other peaks. Independence Pass is 12. It's a pass that's 12,000 feet high. So
yeah, exactly.
I love it. Well, I love it all. So, definitely for anybody out there who has the opportunity, especially during this, get out and see this country, because whether you're here in the States or you're up north in Alaska or in Canada, oh my God, this Canada is so breathtakingly beautiful. So many things out there in the from the Pacific Northwest all the way to the Eastern Seaboard. It's so much to offer, and definitely see it. And go and experience things. Go out there and engage with not only the landscape and the nature, but engage with the people there as well. Nothing is a greater experience than actually boots on the ground and being a part of it.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And with that, JL, I would like to thank you so very much for being on the show with us tonight. It has been an absolute blast. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm totally flattered that you had me on. It was so much fun, getting to chat with you guys. This was awesome. I don't think I myself am really that interesting, but I hope other people did. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And everyone in the chat, if you haven't already, please take a moment to head over to JL's channel, give him a sub, give him a like, hit that bell and show some love, and do the same for the four Beardsmen of the Apocalypse and the Week in Horror. All great shows, great channels, and you won't regret it. So thanks for coming out, everybody. That's all we've got for you tonight. I'd just like to remind everyone that this Sunday will be the premiere of Series 3 of The Pain of Progress. So we're back, and it's going to be a great season, so watch out for that. And if you'd like to support the EiE Network or myself, Steaming Cup of Reason, head on over to my channel and consider maybe dropping a donation on my PayPal or join my Patreon and help us to do what we love to do, and that's bring you guys great entertainment. And with that, thanks for joining us, everyone, and I'll see you again on the next Mega Mirror Live.
Bye.